What's up? We're going to talk about this bad boy, okay? I picked up a series of lights. You can see the lights right there. It's like a little LED light. I have more here. Look at this. So it's a little LED light in there, and it receives a signal from this remote. This remote will change the light colors from white to red to green to blue. This is a timer for duration, how long you want the light on for, and all of it's controlled inside. You can turn the brightness up and down, or on and off is up there. So what I wanted to do was decode this one. This one takes a little IR pulse. You can see it, infrared, and that infrared signal is picked up by one of these. It's an infrared receiver. It looks for that 38 kilohertz frequency as sending data. So the little device there is going to decode the data, and I have it fed. It's going into this port over here. This is my little development board that I designed. It has a processor on the back so that I can, troubleshoot circuits and whatnot. So this has all the bells and whistles. I designed this quite a long time ago, in 2012, I believe. So it allows me to plug this part directly into this board, and then I can tap into this board, and then I can attach a display that will allow me to see what the chip sees coming from the remote. So if I were to hit a button, I'm going to hit this top button up here, power button, okay? Let's see what the value is going to be. The value for that button is 128. Now we got that by this code. If you look at the code over here, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in trying to find that. There's a Cassie laser tag. That's how you get that text onto the display. That's just added value later. But right here, if you come down here, it's going to, right here, we're going to look for pulse in. So we're measuring pulses, and it's going to store it in that box. That's a variable. A variable is basically a container that's going to store a value. And then we're going to compare that variable to 4400. That's the time it takes. For our clock frequency is 20 megahertz. It's the time it takes to decrypt the initial pulse coming in. Once we figure out that the pulse width is 4400, then it can go here and it'll do 32 bytes, 0 to 32. This is a counter for I. I is another variable. We're going to store our values in I from 0 to 32. 0 to 31, which is a 32-bit container. We're going to pulse in again. We're going to measure the high pulse, 1. Previously, we were looking for the low pulse, 0. Now we're looking for the high pulse. We're going to store it in another container, another variable, but this time we're going to increment that variable, the byte value or the bit value, by I. So every time I increments, 0, so for instance 0, this becomes BTN VAL, or button value 0 for this instance. So for button value 0, if button value 0 is greater than 950, then go to repeat. We're looking, that's just a failsafe. Next I. So basically we're looking for any of the pulses, 32-bit pulses coming in greater than 950. Down here, it gets a little bit more tricky. For I equals 0 to 7, now we're going to do byte values. So 0 to 7, that's 8 bits in a byte. If button value, we're using the same container logic, button value I, so button value 0 is greater than 350, then we're going to store button dbyte, another container, dbyte.0i. So the value is going to be stored in dbyte variable 0, 0, since we're still on 0. Right there. We're still on 0. Then it's going to equal 1. Else dbyte1.0 0 will equal 0. End if, we're going to end the compare. Here's the if statement that ends the if statement. Then we're going to increment that I counter. So I is now going to be 1. If button val 1 is greater than 350, then dbyte 1.01 it's either going to store a 1 or 0. If it's greater than 350, it'll store a 1. If it's not, it'll say else. If else, it'll store a 0. Basically, we're just establishing the pulses that are coming in, pulse in, the pulses that the infrared detector sees, if they're actually logic high or logic 0. Now we're going to do the next byte. Since it's a 32-bit, this is a 32-bit button val is a 32-bit, and it's stored in a word because we're using a 20 megahertz clock. So a lot of pulses coming in, and all it's doing is comparing and trying to find high and lows. Okay, so this is going to store. Now we're going to store for I equals 16. Now we're not starting at 0. This is 0 up here, 0 to 7. And we're skipping a section of that 32-bit value. We're skipping basically byte 2. And we're jumping to 16 because that's where the command values are stored. And that's where I'm getting that 128. So I've actually decoded all the buttons on the remote. If you look at this grid, the power on button, the white top left, right here, white top left. Okay, white top left. The decoded value is an NEC remote protocol. The value is 128. And basically they just increment by 1. So for every button on this remote, it starts at 128. So 128, 129, 130, 131, 132, 133, 134, 135, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if we hit this one way down here in the corner, it should be 139, right? Look at that. It's 139. It's exactly what the table says. So that's the values that we've decrypted, thanks to the forums that I subscribe to. They have gone through this code years ago, and I actually was able to decipher it. Now that we know the values from the buttons, we can decide what we want to do with those values. So now we're going to clear the display. That's a clear, number 12. That's to clear the display. This is a pause 100, which means pause for 100 milliseconds, or 1/10 of a second. We're going to set up the display to display that there's that IR value, and there's that dbyte 3. Dbyte 3 stores the command, this right here. This stores this command pulses coming from the remote. So it's going to display the number from dbyte 3. This is why I love LCD displays. And it's going to print this text IR value of dbyte 3. So when we hit our button, watch this. We hit this bottom button again. Oh, let's do a different button. Let's do the black button. Since it starts at 128, this should be 129. 129. And it's showing that text IR value. That's the text that I wrote in my code here. So now it's going to select a case. It's going to look at that dbyte value, and for the first case, if it sees 132, well, let's see what 132 is. 132 is the white button. Okay? White button here. So white button starts at 132, 133, 134, 135. Okay? So now that we know that, we can write the code to select our teams for laser tag. So case 132, set up our display, and we're going to display here team white. It's going to turn on that LED right there. There's an LED. It's a tricolored RGB LED, so it can display all colors. And it's going to turn all the leads on that LED low, which means to get the white color, you need red, green, and blue. That makes white. So, and then on the display, it'll display white. Case number 2, if it receives 133, it will send to the display team red, and it'll set the low to the red channel of that LED. This is a 4-pin, if you can see this, if I can focus, okay. This is a 4-pin LED. It's got a central positive pin, and the rest are minus pins. And this is tied directly into these over here. And you can actually see they're labeled B5, B4, B3. And I also have the cables color coded so I know which color's which. So if we look, that B5 is got a red cable, so that's red color. B4 is got a green cable, and B3 has got a blue cable. So I instantly know what color these values are tied to. Let's look at the code. So B5, B3, and B4. All of those low will make white. Okay? B5 will make red. Okay? So it's like, is B5 red? It sure is. B5 has a red cable. So, never cut the red wire. So, focus. Let's see. It's going to turn on the red color. Okay, case 3, 137. That's going to be the green button on the remote. Set up the display, team green. Port B.4 or B4 is the green channel, and port B3 is the blue channel, team blue. So let's test out the code and see. Let's do team white. Focus. Stupid phone. Uh-oh. Is it white? No, it's red. Why is it red? So now we got to debug something. It's probably overloading the chip, because the chip's not designed to handle that much current for a white LED. So each channel, when you turn on 3 things, each diode is drawing 20 milliamps. So let's try the red button. So team red works. Let's try the green button as soon as it resets. And there it's reset. Oh, we got team green. That's you. No pun intended. Team green. Freaking Ricky Green. Yeah, let's try team blue. There you go. So we have officially set up this remote for our team selection. So, I mean, this whole package with the LED lights and this remote is all I care about. I'm going to go buy like 2 more packages just for this remote, because this remote is amazing. I love it. It has been hacked. Stamp. Holy fuck. What was that? Jesus. Stamp of approval. I'm glad that didn't go through my monitor. Jesus. Hacker stamp of approval. I'll do it lightly this time. Okay. Good God, that scared me. And yeah, man, this is just a test board to test. I was testing infrared communications, but now you can see. I'll show you really quick. Okay, so this is our code. We're gonna go up here. We're gonna compile the program. Oh, it doesn't like something. Oh, that's why. Something fell on the keyboard. It screwed it up. So we got to fix this. This is supposed to be port B.4 backspace. Let's see if it compiles now. There he goes. Okay, it's compiled. Focus. All right, now we got to open the file. This is how we get the code onto the processor. It's just hit open because it's the one we compiled. And we have to configure, the only thing we have to configure here on my boards is it is using a high-speed oscillator. Okay? And then we hit the program. Boom. It writes the program through this programmer. This is the programmer you need to buy to program. And that's plugged into the bottom of the board there. The top port here is USB. The bottom of the board is programmer. Okay, and it's programmed. It's ready to go. Let's test it. Team blue for the team green for the win. Ricky Green. Team green for the win. Over and out.